many guns were you aware Joshua had owned? But now the one.
All right. How's everybody doing tonight? Good weekend, a good week, I should say. Yes, no, maybe, just got out of prison, jail. No, all right, okay, good. I'm glad you could be here for the class, all right. What can I see here? Wait. Okay. All right, couple admin notes, all right, so I looked over the tire justification, and if you haven't got it in, please get it in. All right, I think there's one or two people that haven't gotten in, but I don't think anybody here is guilty of that. All right, overall, everything looked good, all right, some of you went above, a little above and beyond, but that's okay. Just try to follow directions and stick to one page, all right? All in all, the topics are pretty interesting, looking forward to reading them. Just make sure that you correlate whatever it is you're talking about to OD and change management. I don't care what it is, you could be talking about weeding plants, but you have to connect it to what we're talking about here. It just can't be some offshoot topic that you're interested in that happens to be in the industry that you're in and maybe correlated to, something else that you got going on. All right, it has to pertain to this class, and you have to bring out the aspect of what part of it is related to organizational development and change management. Okay, that's really what I'm looking for, the connection, because there's change management and organizational development in everything that we do. But sometimes you have to kind of pull it out, and it's not obvious. All right, sometimes you have to pull it out and show me, like, yeah, I'm looking at this, this thing that's going to change the industry. That's great, right? If it's a huge dramatic change, or it's going to have an impact, but bringing a new thing to the marketplace is not considered change management. That's just considered bringing something new to the marketplace. Okay, what is that going to change? What, this new thing, how's it going to change my staffing? How's it going to change my marketing? How's it going to change my business processes? You got to get more into details specifically on how that is going to change how I do business. Not overall in the industry, or hey, this is a great thing and it's gonna make people's lives better. Like, yeah, we all know that. That's obvious. But how is specifically going to impact your business operations or a business operation, or just impact people's lives in a more specific and granular way? Okay. So make sure you do that when you're writing the paper. When it comes down to the final draft, I'm hoping to see that kind of pulled out and that is upfront and very obvious to me, and it's hard because everybody has their own different writing styles, okay? And it's hard for me to tell you, hey, don't, write eloquently, or don't write, the way you write. But the best way to really write is just to be simple. Just say what it is. Right? Don't go around building this whole story plot and trying to build this narrative. Don't forget what you're writing. It's an academic paper. Totally different from a novel, totally different from short fiction, so different from any other type of writing. This academic writing. Straightforward, simple language, layman's terms, terminology that relates to the field is what you should be writing, not anything else. I don't need to hear a story, I just need to hear the background. And if it's relevant, then state so, but get to the point, all right? Get to the point. Don't, dance around with fancy words. $10 words don't mean anything. I may have to go to the dictionary and look it up because I don't even know what it means, all right? And then when I look it up, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't really match what you're saying. Like, okay, well, now you just dug yourself a hole, right? Now I don't want to get it. I really don't understand what you're saying. Keep it simple. Okay, simple doesn't mean stupid. Simple just means easy. Anybody can follow it, and that's what you want. People can follow your research or whatever you're writing about easily. Okay, I don't need to have a dictionary or 8 PhDs and be a rocket scientist to be what you need to write, right? Because some of you in here, doctors, engineers, computer programmers, you guys are way smarter than me. I don't, there's words I can't even spell or pronounce that you guys know and do on a regular basis, and that's amazing, but I don't need to know phlebotomy or, gastronomesis or whatever it is, big word you want to use. And yeah, whatever it is, right? Just keep it simple, okay? But overall, pretty good. I was happy with the title notification and, keep up the good work. What else? Let's shoot. There's something else and I can't remember. Oh, pay attention if you send an email to me or to any other staff member or just anybody in general, be careful of how you word your emails, okay? Emails and texts are strange because I really can't tell what your intentions are, like kind of what your feelings are behind it, emotions behind it. I see an email, it says, hey, what's up? Who you talking to, me? I don't think so. My name's either Mr. Case, Dr. Case, Professor Case, Instructor Case, something, right? Not, hey, what's up? Right? I'm not saying that I'm like special or anything like that, but there's a relationship we have, a professional relationship, just like I'm gonna address you by your first name. Hey, how you doing, Christina? Hey, how you doing, Artie? Everything okay? How's your day going? Or something like that, right? You keep it professional, you keep it, on a certain level, not, hey, what's up? Yeah, so I was wondering if you could do me this favor and yeah, hook me up and I wasn't really feeling good, but things are tough right now, so could you look out for me? Okay, bye. That's not gonna work for me, okay? That is not gonna work for me. I don't like to be threatened or whatever the case may be. And I'm not saying any of you have done that, but there are some people in the class and, hey, what's going on? And in other classes, I've had issues with their emails and the way that they are, addressing me, and I'm afraid that they may be addressing other, professors or other students in that manner, okay? So just don't do it, especially not with me. I don't, I'm not trying to be, brag or anything. I don't need this job, honestly. I do it because I enjoy it. I love teaching. It's fun. You guys are great. But threaten me by saying, hey, I'm gonna go to the school, you're gonna lose your job, doesn't bother me. I sleep just fine. Okay? I don't care about that. Okay? Money is not my objective here. Anybody knows teachers don't make money. Okay? That's the way it is. All right. Have you seen my car? No,
It's a BMW.
it's a BMW.
So,
Okay? It's old.
but experience.
Yeah, it's a BMW, okay? I didn't say I was dirt poor. They said they don't pay me a lot of money here. Okay? So just be cognizant of the emails that you send out and how you communicate with the staff and the professors here. Because again, some of you, are trying to obtain this degree that most of us already have, right? We kind of went through the rigors of getting here, and there's a reason why we're here. Just like when you get to your point in life where you are, either instructors or, the top dog making the decision, you're gonna want people to listen and follow you, all right? Even if they think, your decision making doesn't make sense necessarily, okay? So, but no one in here is guilty of that. I'm just saying that as a general note. There are students out there like that, okay, that I gotta deal with on a regular basis. All right, aside from that, week 4, halfway through, okay, or will be tonight. All right, so any questions about anything else?
There was something, the class activity.
Oh, yeah, the class activity. So basically, that was just on me. I wanted some articles that I wanted to talk about last week, but I was talking too much and I kind of didn't run out of time. So I didn't want to keep you here till 8 something to discuss them. So I just kind of I put in the wrong format. Because the assignments, as soon as you put on the assignment, it gives it a grade or gives a point total or something like that. And I didn't realize that. So I took it out and I renamed it and made it something else. Some people emailed me and I say, hey, don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. So I apologize if it threw you off and you thought that something else would do, but it's not. It's just articles that we may get to look at tonight. If not, we'll get to look at them next week. Okay. So don't sweat it. All right. If it's not on the syllabus, don't worry about it. Okay, sometimes I'll just throw stuff on there, see people paying attention or not. All right, weird, but it works. Okay, all right, any other questions? Nothing? Somebody wants to know about midterm?
Yeah, I noticed that there's no midterm test on the
Yes.
model.
No midterm. Okay,
It's final.
just final. Yeah,
You
So-
change it
did I change it?
for the,
No. So typically, it varies from class to class, but usually in a master's grad program, in most grad programs, you don't have tests. You don't have tests, you don't have like midterms and stuff like it. It doesn't really prove anything, to tell you the truth, unless it's a math class. And maybe in the political, I mean, not the political side, but maybe in the life sciences and other sciences, they might have a midterm because it makes sense. But in social science and some of the classes that we've taken here, it doesn't make sense to have a midterm. Yeah, because most of the work you're gonna be doing is collaboration. That's what graduate work is about, collaborating, teamwork, and that kind of thing. So having a midterm here doesn't make sense. In undergrad, it makes a little more sense because really undergrad is a fire hose of information, right? It's like retain, take the test, done. All right, I'm sure that's what everybody did in undergrad. That's what I did. Retained it just enough so I could pass the test to the point the level I wanted to pass it at, and then I dump everything. I literally forget everything, move on to the next topic. Okay, so so no midterm in this class, and just a final in the paper. Okay, and then some classes there's no final. Just the paper. Okay, I know. I think anybody would mind. I mean, I can give you a midterm if you want.
no.
Okay, I got a couple I can jam out easy, you know, got lots of questions. Okay, so no midterm. Anything else? No? All right, cool. All right, so this week we're gonna talk about communication, okay? And so first I'm asking you, at the core of any relationship, what do you guys think is the most important thing? Communication, okay? What else?
Can you be the?
At the core, at the center of a relationship, or any relationship you have, what is at the core of it? What's at the center of it?
The communication.
The communication, right?
Transparency.
Respect,
Transparency.
transparency, what else? Dependability, what else? There's one word you're missing.
Honesty.
Was that?
Honesty.
Honest, yeah, okay. Along those lines, trust,
Right.
okay? So honesty, trust, loyalty, that kind of thing, but trust and communication, okay? It's the same thing in the business environment, especially when we talk about change management, okay? How we communicate when there's a change about to happen or something is going to impact, each individually different, is important, right? How I present it to you, right? I could present it to you in a number of different ways. I could present it to you as an order, like, hey, directive, we're going to do this thing, right? You got no choice. I could present it to you in a persuasive way where I can say, hey, you know what? This is what I was thinking. What do you think? All right. I could present it in a way where I say, hey, yes, it's a directive, and I'm trying to persuade you to do it at the same time, but you can opt out of it. Or I may be looking for your input, but I really don't care about your input. If that makes sense. All right. I'll let you talk, but I really know whatever you say, I'm not gonna listen to. All right. It's not important. Okay. Not that it's not important, but it's not going to have an impact on the decision making that I have. All right. So within change, you have to make sure that the communication is chosen properly, right? And it depends sometimes on who's communicating. We each communicate differently, all right? Some people don't communicate very well, others are great communicators, right? We think we're good communicators, but communication is something that you can work on your whole life, right? And get better and better at it because each individual that you meet is going to require something that's a little bit different, right? And so when you're going through change and trying to make sure that the change is going to take place, what's probably one of the more important things you need to make sure that happens when you talk about your employees and, hey, we're going to implement this change, or we're talking about this change. What do you think is important for them?
Interaction.
Direction, okay, definitely. All right. What else? Feedback for sure. All right. Feedback for sure. Reason, okay, all right. No, that's good. Okay. What else?
They need to accept the change.
They need to accept the change. We used to call buy-in. Okay? We call that buy-in. I want the people to buy in to what I'm selling. Okay? Think of this as a team and think about some of the teams you've seen that have been successful. All right. And I always go back to basketball because that's kind of where I know. All right. Or even let's just say football, right? International football, not American football. To win a championship or to be successful, it's not about, just the player being good, right? Or having a Messi or Mbappe or something, whoever you have on your team, right? It's about the team itself, the players buying into the coach's philosophy.
Yeah.
Okay, that's really what it's about, right? And you see, and I think we mentioned this last week, if the best player buys into the coach's philosophy, then all the other players kind of fall in line. Okay, because they realize like, hey, this is the best person on the team. If they're gonna follow direction or follow the change, then I'm going to follow it as well. Right? And you have to have buy-in, right? If you have one person on the team who doesn't buy in to what the team is doing, it's gonna fall apart. Right? You're either gonna have to get rid of that person, right? Or find a way in which to persuade them to buy in, right? And people don't buy in for a number of reasons, all right? But most times they don't buy in because the communication sucks, right? They haven't had a chance to sit down and talk to the coach, talk to the manager, and say, hey, you know what? I'm one of those people that needs a little bit more detail. I need a little more information. I need a little more attention as to what the change is about, all right? How we're doing the change. When is the change happening, right? There's people like that, they want details. And so I remember when, and I may have mentioned it before, I was at Toyota and Toyota was making a move from LA to go to Texas. Okay. And so they had kept it under wraps, they didn't tell anybody, all right? And because it was really a fight at the highest levels with the governor and the CEO of Toyota and Toyota North America, the CEO there also. And California was not willing to give Toyota any more concessions that they wanted to maintain their presence here. And so Toyota was trying to negotiate some stuff, and they didn't want the word getting out that they were moving just yet. Okay, but somehow, some way, a reporter got the news that Toyota was planning on moving, and they had already start building a campus in Plano, Texas. The thing was amazing, huge. It was had all state-of-the-art stuff, all this good stuff, right? And then the Toyota CEO called the reporter and said, "Hey, please don't run this story. Give me a week so I can let my people know what's going on," because they had no idea that Toyota was moving. And if you understand anything about Toyota, Toyota's been in LA for over, yes, come on, for over 60 plus years. So they have generations of, I literally knew grandmothers, daughters, granddaughters that worked at Toyota. The whole family worked at Toyota. Okay, this is what they knew, right? They knew Torrance, LA, that area in LA, and this is where they were, raised and all this other stuff. So CEO called over to the reporter and said, "Hey, can you not run this story? Wait, probably like a week and until I can talk to my folks." And the reporter said, "Sure, no problem." Sure enough, the next day, ran the story. Toyota's moving, having a battle with, California legislation or governor's office and that kind of thing. And I remember exactly what happened. I was working on the Lexus side at that point. And I remember all of a sudden, I didn't know the story came out. No one knew the story came out. The phone just was ringing like crazy. All of a sudden, more than usual, because I worked near the call center. More than usual, the phones were like, everyone's phone was ringing. Everyone. You know who was calling in? The employees that hadn't come to work yet. What is this I hear about Toyota moving to Plano? What do you mean? When is this happening? Why don't we know about this? It was ugly. It was the worst thing they could have imagined, right? To the point where the CEO had to have an emergency town hall meeting the next day with all the employees. Okay. And Toyota has about, I would say maybe 5,000 real employees, all right, and the rest are contractors. Okay, so about 40,000 contractors and about 5,000 or 6,000 real employees, full-time employees. That's how they do it, right? But nonetheless, you gotta bring all the people in because the contracts matter too, because the contracts are local, so you have to talk to them also. And I tell you, it wasn't pretty, okay? I felt bad for the CEO, actually. He was just getting barraged. And the reason that he wasn't ready to talk about it because they didn't have everything in place. Now, if you're an employee and you're going through this transition of possibly moving, what questions would you have as an employee? What's the first thing you would think about?
Why do they do that?
Why are we moving, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So he explained that we're moving because California will not provide for any concessions or incentives to
Yeah.
stay in the state. And, the tax is too high, payroll tax is different, right? California is like one of the weirdest states when it comes to HR. Okay, except for New York, California is the worst when it comes to HR. Just, they got all these rules and stuff like that. That Toyota was like, we can't meet these requirements without doing a few other things. And the government was like, no. The California government was like, no. Okay, so what will be next, all right? Why are we doing it? But, okay, what's next?
What will they do after this?
What will who do?
Like the employees.
Employee,
or
okay,
service?
yeah, all right, so what
Do
we
they have
do,
to switch their living to the places or something?
perfect, all right? That's the next logical question, right?
So what I heard when I was reading about this happened,
Mm.
so Toyota offered employees like, they can relocate themselves to California to Texas and they're gonna give like compensation for 1 month.
Okay,
And from that, they have to go from there. So they're gonna give compensation for 1 month, like house and expenses. If anybody wants to join, they can join, but the rest month they have to,
okay,
after that, they have to find their own.
This is the solution.
They just
Yeah.
give that.
Yeah. it's one of the options, it's one of the
They give
options.
the cut off.
Yeah. So basically, when the employees said, hey, what's gonna happen to us? Guess what? CEO was like, I don't know. You know why he didn't know? Because he hadn't planned anything yet. Because he wasn't ready to talk about it. Okay? He was not ready to communicate the fact that Toyota was making this move because he wasn't really sure as to the level of move, right? How they were gonna do it exactly, right? Were they gonna phase it out? Were they just gonna pick everybody up and just move? All right? Was the campus gonna be ready on time within the timeline that they had established to make the move? So he didn't have any answers, okay? Because unfortunately, he's the CEO, but he relies on his staff and the people that work for him to kind of formulate plans and come up with, campaigns and different things for him to look at and say, okay, we're gonna go this way, we're gonna go that way. No, I'm not gonna do this, or whatever the case may be. So the employees had the question, okay, what happens to us next? Okay, all right, so what other questions did you have? That? When, right? When? Again, I don't know. I'm not sure, right?
He's not supposed to be CEO of the Toyota.
No,
They have no answer for the.
No, okay, so why do you think he didn't have an answer?
Because the land didn't finish it.
The plan didn't finish it, right? That's why he didn't have an answer. They were still in the midst of formulating everything, okay? They were still in the midst of writing everything down, getting it into a presentable format to give to each employee, right? The ideal situation was that, hey, we're gonna have a town hall meeting, there's some big changes coming, this is what, meet at, 5 o'clock, whatever, virtually, however you wanna come physically. And the plan was to give each employee, when they walked in, here's the program, or here's the pamphlet, or here's the frequently asked questions for this change that's happening, okay? And it was supposed to be done 6 months, 7 months ahead of the move, right? Whenever that got established. But they didn't have time to really finish out all the planning. It is very difficult to plan out a pay schedule for people that are at different levels in your company, different titles, different ways that they're assigned to your company. Like I said, 40 to 45,000 employees that work for Toyota are contractors. Okay, how do you pay them out, right? How do you honor those contracts if you're not going to be in the area? All right, how do I do that? Okay, how do I pay the employees that want to stay in California, how do I pay them, right? How do I pay the people that are about to retire and need 1 more year or 2 more years to retire, but I'm moving in the next 6 months? What does that look like? Do they need to move to Texas for the next 2 years and then come back to California so they get a retirement? Right? Those are very specific questions because each person has a different situation, right? And so he got caught in a really bad position in which he was answering questions and communicating in a way that in information that he just didn't have. Okay. And so it came across like, as you said, he shouldn't be a CEO, right? Because to us, it looked like he wasn't prepared, and he wasn't. Not at that moment, okay? When finally everything kind of settled and gave him a little time to get things together, it took another 2, 3 months before we had another meeting about it, right? But the whole time, people are in the office and they are freaking out, okay? Everybody's wondering when the shoe gonna drop. Is this everything? Then are they telling us the whole story? Are we gonna keep getting paid? Is Toyota going bankrupt? All this kind of stuff, right? And so it was 2 months later that they came out, they had another town hall meeting, and at this point, though, the CEO was ready, right? We had these little pamphlets, and they handed them out, and they talked about all the different options, depending on what level you were at, right? In the company, all right, and what your title was, right? And if you wanted to stay, right, as Hardik mentioned, they were gonna give you 3 months. It was 3 months, right? Depending on how long you had been there.
Yeah, I heard about one.
Yeah. 1 month was for people that just got there, been there less than a year, whatever the case may be. Most people have been in Toyota for 10 years, 15 years that worked there. I was there for a year or so it didn't matter to me. I didn't. I was like,
Oh,
okay.
you were there
Toyota?
in LA,
Yeah,
like when they were moving,
yeah.
so
Yeah.
they didn't offer you?
No, they did. Yeah, 1 month.
Oh, one.
Yeah, 1 month, because I wasn't there that long.
Oh,
Yeah, I wasn't there long enough.
Offer any remote work, like, or was it a requirement?
No.
They wasn't-
This is before COVID, so yeah, they didn't offer
This
remote work.
was, I think, 2013 or 14.
This was 2015, I think, if I remember correctly. About 2000, yeah, maybe 2014, 2015. Yeah. But they had different levels in which, okay, if you've been in the company this long and you want to stay in California, not move the company, you would get this much severance, you would get this much bonus, you get this much time to, figure out what you need to do for your next move. You need a referral, and any department or any section that was still staying in California till they phased everything out. As long as it was in California, you could stay there till it was phased out, and you would still get all the benefits. All right, so you would basically double dip, sort of, right? Because at the end of the day, you would get your paycheck and you would still get all the other stuff. But the real problem was the folks that, were staying in California, all right, but had been with the company 20 some odd years, and were close to retirement, all right? Or senior level people that had families that, had been working there 50, 60 years, right? And then now you're asking me to move, right? It wasn't just about a move about the company, it's a cultural move. Okay, you're asking me to move out of some place where I grew up, my mother grew up, my grandmother grew up, right? And my kids are growing up, right? And you're asking me to move and to place myself to go to another state that I don't want to go to. And I found out through the news.
It's not even a good city, like when where they moved.
Plano? No, Plano's not.
It's like a small town. It's not.
Yeah, it's not big. It's near Fort Worth, Dallas, Fort Worth area. It's actually a pretty nice place. Cause they flew me out. I went to go check it out. And like, hey, my boss was really wanting me to go, and like, hey, we'll give you, you get your pick of the office, and we'll bump your salary up, whatever. And I was like, I'm just not a big fan of Texas. Okay, that just wasn't me. I was like, I'm good. I appreciate it. And matter of fact, he still texts me, emails me like 6 months ago. You sure you don't want to come to Texas? Like, no, I'm positive. I'm good, right? But you have people that went. Okay, you have people that went. Okay. And those folks typically were not concerned about the communication as far as like what happened, why it happened, and this kind of thing. They didn't really care about that stuff because they just knew, okay, I'm gonna go to Plano, and whatever's waiting for me in Texas, I'm good. Okay, they're gonna give me pick up my office. You know, if you were one of the first people to go ahead and take and jump and say, hey, yeah, I'm gonna move, you got to go. You got to see the whole building, the campus, what it was gonna look like. You got to pick your office if you got one, if you rated an office. You got a good, you know, I think they gave me an extra $50,000 in my pay just to go. All right. And it was just a good deal. And then told her, you know, I got free cars every month. I could change out my car and give me another car. So there's a lot of benefits to going to Texas. All right. But then you have the folks that, you know, weren't sure what they were gonna do. Okay, they were not positive. And so that required more communication on the part of the company. Okay, and some of the things that you guys talked about, transparency, all right, just being upfront, just, you know, communicating and how consistently you're doing it. All right, all that stuff matters because every week, basically every day, someone had a new question about something that maybe they just thought about, it just popped in their head, right? But without the proper communication, they weren't really getting any answers. And guess what? Start getting frustrated, right? It got to the point where you could actually see the efficiency and productivity going down. Like it was just weird to me because I'd never seen that before. I could actually see like going down. Like I could see where people that used to stay till like 7, 8 o'clock at night, they were leaving at 4:30, 5. They were leaving when they're supposed, you know, kind of supposed to, right? People were just kind of like, whatever. The work, you could tell the work was just not that great. They were on the phone with the customers and like, yeah, you know, we'll take care of it. And they kind of getting up the phone and then the thing would just sit there. Where before it'd be moving. And Toyota is one of the like most well-ran companies I've seen. Okay, they're very efficient, very productive, and they're very concerned about taking care of their people. Right. And so it was very dramatic to see this change based on the fact that there was a lack of communication, right? And because lack of communication and the way people found out about the situation, it made them resentful. It made them angry, pissed them off, right? Because why didn't we have any buy-in into this decision? Okay. Did you ask us, would we be willing to forfeit extra money out of our paycheck in order to cover this payroll tax? Did you ask us what we thought about the move and how it would impact our lives? Did you ask us about having some potential options, you know, come up with some remedies? Yeah, there's like a lot of real smart people in Toyota, right? And so people got upset about that because there was no communication as to, you know, to build buy-in, right? And what happened? Trust eroded. At the end of the day, we didn't trust the leadership. Okay, and you see this in many governments, right? Do you trust your government from your country?
No.
No. Okay? I can pretty much say with most certainty, everybody here, you know, is from a country where we all look at the government a little sideways, all right? I know what you're saying, but I don't believe you, okay? I don't trust you, right? If I don't trust you, then we can communicate, we can talk. You have a question? Okay. We can talk, right? But is that really communication? Okay, because it's going in one ear out the other. Okay, when, like they say with when you know a lawyer is lying. Anybody heard that joke before? When you know a lawyer is lying, a lawyer. When do you know they're lying?
When they protect somebody's life.
No, you already got it wrong. Too deep.
It's all the-
Is it what? No. This is a joke now. This is a joke. So think about it that way.
When it's stand in front of the judgment. Judge or
No.
something.
When they in the court
No.
and they want to lie.
When
No.
they go to their upstairs.
Yeah, no, you guys, it's a joke. When do you know a lawyer is lying?
Every time,
What?
their job.
It was, no, not his life. Did you say?
Every time in their job. This is usually daily, anytime. This is their job.
Because you cannot win from them.
No, okay, all right, that's enough. You guys get all the time, right? Same thing with
When they
people.
swear God.
No, you know a lawyer is lying the minute they start talking.
Yeah.
As soon as the lawyer says hello, they're lying.
Come on.
My name is, you're lying. Okay? That's a joke that maybe in America is more prevalent, in America, but in America, if a lawyer's talking, he's lying, or she's lying. Okay, that's just the way it is, right? And so that's kind of the relationship we had at Toyota, right? The communication was not there because there was no trust, and anytime the CEO opened his mouth, like, man, he's lying. He's full of it. That's not happening, huh?
It's like when we like go to see the government, like go on TV and they were talking about rules and we say things they like.
Yeah, they're lying, right? You don't trust them, okay?
When they like go to the TV, the economy is good, everything is good.
Yeah.
That's not good.
But what's really happening behind the scenes? Nothing, all right? Or at least they don't know. Okay, they don't know, right? So again, going back to the trust thing, communication is rooted in trust. All right, communication is rooted in openness and being able to have a conversation. Okay, good communication is not a monologue; it's a dialogue. Right? We have to talk to each other. You have to give me an opportunity to speak as the transmitter, and I have to give you an opportunity as a receiver to take in the information and decode it and tell me what it is that you perceive that I'm saying. Okay, and this is where everything gets kind of gray and messy. Okay, what I'm saying to you, you may not receive it in that way because you may have some other stuff going on. You've ever been yelled at or somebody's angry at you or mad at you, and you're like, what did I do? Or I did something, but I don't think it's to that level, right? That you're screaming at me and you're doing all this other stuff, right? It's usually because there's something else that happened. You just happen to be the first person that they meet, or maybe you might be their significant other, right? I'm sure everybody here that's a girlfriend or boyfriend or married, all right? Your wife or your husband comes home and they just grumpy and they snap at you. You're like, what is wrong with you? I didn't do anything. And then they tell you, oh, I just had a bad day at work and whatever the case may be. It's not you, right? They're not mad at you. They're mad at something that happened, okay? But their perception, right, on what you said, hey, you didn't, put the dishes away before you left. What are you talking about? And put that, I didn't have time and I'm busy and And you're like, whoa, slow down. You just said you didn't put the dishes away before you left this morning, okay? Calm down. What's bugging you, right? So how you receive it is one thing, right? But how you receive it also is impacted by some other stuff that may be going on in your life that you probably went through, okay? So it's important that when you communicate, especially when going through change, all right, you're transparent, all right? You build trust, you build loyalty, you're honest about things, even if they are going to be painful, all right? Because I'd rather you be upfront with me, all right, and just tell me, hey, this is what it is, then you lie to me and sugarcoat it, and then I kind of find out later on that it's nothing like that, okay? To be upfront with people, okay? All right, any questions thus far? Nothing? All right. All right, so let's go back here to these change images, all right? And so we've been talking about change images, for the past 4 weeks, right? I haven't really harped on it super hard, but again, as I mentioned, every person has a different role that they play within the change management process, okay? It depends on your personality, depends on your position. You may be, the person that kind of glues everybody together. You may be the person that kind of tells everybody where to go. You may be the person that people come to when they're having a rough day, a rough time, understanding what the change is about, and that kind of thing, right? But each role, each different image has a different way of communicating, okay? As a coach or as a professor, as a, kind of the de facto leader of the class, there's a certain way that I'm going to communicate with you, okay? There's a certain way I'm going to communicate change with you. There's a certain way I'm going to communicate if I make a mistake or if I need to talk to you, if I'm trying to get you to do a certain amount of work or level of work. It's like when I first got here, when we first started the class, I was telling you about the communication emails and, hey, make sure you address your emails properly. that's in the role that I'm in. Okay, that's the way I perceive it. All right, and I'm expecting a certain level of communication. But I could have been, a student, or I have been a student, and I've had to communicate with my professors, all right, or had to communicate with the dean of the school, or whatever the case may be. Different way of communicating, all right, because my role is different, all right, and so each image has a different way that they communicate based on their image, and it invokes a certain purpose, right? They do it because that's, hey, think about when you are speaking to, you have a problem, right? You talk to your best friend, you talk to your mother, you talk to your boss, and then you talk to just some stranger on the street about it, right? Just randomly talking to them, okay? Each one of those people are gonna get a different communication style from you, right?
Different tone of voice, different
Everything, right?
interaction,
It's gonna be different, right? The way you talk to your best friend is not gonna be the same when you talk to your wife or your husband.
Mhm.
It's not gonna be the same when you talk to your mother or your father. Not gonna be the way you talk to somebody you just met on the street, okay? And so those are different roles, right? And based on the role that that person is playing, you're going to adjust your communication style for that. But at the end of the day, you're trying to convey a certain point, right? How detailed it is really the question that you kind of run into when you start looking at different roles, right? How much information or how much access am I giving to myself? All right, what am I gonna tell you? I'm gonna leave out. What do I think is not important? Okay, you tell your best friend certain things about, your dating life that you won't tell your mother. Well, I would anyway. All right, there's certain things I talk to my best friends about. I would not tell my mother. I don't care how often she asks.
Yeah.
Okay, no, mom, I'm good. We're not talking about that.
Yeah.
Okay, so, but my other friend, like, yeah. Okay, my girlfriend, certain things I'll talk to her about, most things, but sometimes I don't tell her stuff because I know that she'll take it a certain way, and it's not like that. Okay, yeah, it's not that way. It's the way she's perceiving it. So I have to wait till her perception matches what I'm gonna say. Okay, and so that she knows, like, this is what it is, not this that you're thinking about, right? Because people always think the worst, right? As people, we always think half, half empty, not half full. Okay, especially in relationships, right? That's just the way it is. I don't know why. It's just it, right? And so the role is important, right? So that's why change images and communication is a critical piece in understanding what role does that person play within the change management process, right? And depending on their role, they're going to communicate in a certain style, right? So we kind of talked about transmitter and the receiver already, and these are the communication process that we're talking about in change management is no different than the communication process in life, honestly. Okay, it's the same thing. Communication is the same throughout any industry, throughout any aspect of your life. There's no special formula at all. Okay, somebody talks, you listen, all right, and depending on if you're the boss or if it's a one-way conversation, all right, you get to say something, maybe you don't. Okay, but the point is that there's two people, and we're trying to get something solved. Okay, there's gonna be conversations, especially if you're working with somebody, all right, working for someone, especially in the job place, in the workplace, that you're gonna have, it's gonna be a one-way conversation. I've had plenty of one-way conversation. The whole military is one-way conversation. Okay, they talk, I listen. And then when it's my time to talk, my people listen. And then when it's their time to talk, their people listen. That's how it kind of works, all right? There's no democracy in the military. But when you get to outside in other industries, your boss may say, hey, I need you to do this. This is what's happening. And he or she may say, what do you think? 9 times out of 10, they won't, okay? Because they've already gotten their instructions from their boss, right? So I mean, if I give you a chance to say something, that means now I have to kind of take what you say, and I may have to go back to my boss and say, you know what, boss, I was thinking, well, no, you weren't really thinking, okay? The store was thinking, but not you, all right? But it's your kind of thing, right? So you have to go to the boss and say, hey, I'm thinking that maybe we go this way, and then that person has to go to their boss, to tell them the same thing, right? So you see where I'm going with it, right? So there's gonna be conversations where it's one way, and that's just the way it is, okay? But the process is the same throughout. Doesn't matter if you're talking to the president, or you're talking to the prime minister, or you're talking to the guy on the street. Okay, the process is the same. It just depends on the role the person's playing, right? But within this whole process, right, there's a couple of different things that can happen, right? You can actually have too much information, right? Message overload. Okay, you may just have too much stuff, right? We have message overload, right? We may have too much stuff where you divulging too much information too fast at a large amount. You ever had a conversation with somebody and they say, okay, I need you to stop because I gotta process this. Okay, just give me a minute, let me process this part. Because there's some things you talk about or you may hear that you're not necessarily ready to hear or listen to. That you don't believe, that you're just not in a space to really accept that, right? I need a minute to process. So you get too much information. You're just burning somebody too fast. You might feel that way in class, right? Depending on what class you're taking. Okay, I felt that way when I took calculus 2. It was just too much, too fast. I had to go home and really like put serious time into Calc 2 because I was just like, who came up with this nonsense? Okay, nobody uses this math, but I was wrong. Everybody uses math, but I just didn't understand it. Okay, sometimes it's just too much. You got message distortion, all right? Anybody know what I mean by message distortion? Misunderstanding, right? This, I don't like, I hear what you're saying. I think I got it, but that's not what you're really saying, huh? There's this definition and there's this definition. So which one are you talking about? Okay, like I'm not getting your message, or your message and actions don't match. All right, you say one thing, but you're doing something totally different. All right, if they say, walk the walk, talk the talk. Okay, or if you talk the talk, walk the walk, things like that. Or if you're going to ask someone to do something, right? You got to do it first. All right, you have to really do it and not ask them to do something that you wouldn't do yourself. Okay, and so you want to make sure that people can connect the two cognitively. All right, what you're saying and what you're doing. That actions match the deeds, the words. Right, and that's an important aspect because words mean a lot. And if that's all you have, then people are going to take that and they're going to run with it. And if you don't necessarily match those two up, it's not going to work. Okay, it's not going to work. It's like it's just too much of a disconnect in the two. Where yeah, I don't care about money. I just want to have a good job. But then I give you a job, you go, I don't like it. Not enough money. Well, you just say you didn't care about the money. Right? You want to do something that you're passionate about, that you love to do, right? You do it and I'm gonna pay you this much money, right? Yeah. It really is about the money then. Okay, you're not worried about the passion. I get that you want to do something that you like, but your concern is definitely money. All right, and that's fine, no big deal. All right. Then you have message ambiguity, right? Where you just, I don't know what you're talking about. Totally lost. You have an unclear message, it could mean in multiple things. I'm just confused as to what you're saying. Okay, I have no idea. You're talking in circles and just nonsense. And that's probably the hardest one to kind of get through, because if I tell you as a CEO, yeah, we're moving to Texas, we're moving to Plano in 6 months, but we're not sure yet. But we're making all these, plans. We're building buildings. We're coming up with all these schemes and we're doing this stuff, but we may change our mind. Like, okay, you're confusing me. We are moving or we aren't moving? What is it? Okay, because I have to make decisions based on that, right? And so I need some clear direction. I need something that's crystal clear that I get, that everybody understands, and there's no ambiguity. There's no, it's not muddy. Okay, we don't want money, all right? And so we want to avoid overload, distortion, ambiguity, okay? We want to make sure everything's good to go. All right, what time is it?
6:30.
6:30, okay. We'll go through this and then we'll take a break, all right? All right, so gender. All right, what can anyone tell me about gender communication?
In
Gender,
general or in the business way or what?
in general, you guys,
Because you're restricted by using your tone of voice if you are interacting with older man or
Okay.
younger man. So you have to stay with the older.
okay,
You're not supposed to speak loudly with them or aggressive way or anything.
as compared to women?
Anything, any older people.
Okay, we're sticking with gender, try to stick with gender here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Gender, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, the whole thing is different.
Mhm.
The way I talk with women is
Mhm.
different the way I talk with men.
Why?
Because look, in our like, traditional, like our, something,
Okay.
I should give the woman more respect when I talk with him than a man.
Okay.
I give him, his respect, by I respect the woman more
Okay,
in our traditional.
Okay.
So the way I speak with it with low voice, I can't accept anything that she say. It's different.
is it every,
Receiving the information you need or interaction.
is it any woman?
And
Any woman?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what she does,
Um,
what she does for a living, where she lives, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You respect all women, and you talk to women in a certain way, because that's just the way the culture is, right?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. We can say,
maybe because she's more sensitive only, but
she's more sensitive?
yeah.
Okay, all right.
but
Men
she-
can be sensitive.
I was gonna say, watch your back.
sensitive, yeah, like-
You like right in the middle. All the ladies got you,
From my personal experience, most of men like say that in class,
I
but
do
when it
agree.
comes to
I am
work,
sensitive.
you are doing this right now, I'm trying to speak and you're not. So basically, in the workspace, people respect men more than women. Like even if the woman is in a leadership position, they're gonna take more seriously the thing that another man tells them to do than what a woman tells them to. I'm not saying you do that, I'm saying that will happen in real life.
okay, no, okay. Anybody else?
Okay.
No?
No, if it's what I have seen is like, if it's like in leadership positions,
Mhm.
like if it's a woman who is playing the role, sometimes like employees don't take seriously.
Okay, but why?
Yeah, this happens,
Yeah, but why?
because they think they are over smart than them.
They think they're smarter than the woman?
Yeah, this is true.
Yeah, no, I'm not disagreeing with you.
I have
Because
a,
the woman,
okay.
They don't give a respect, like that person is sitting above you, so they think like maybe why, or like what she has did. If it's related to, if there was a man,
Mhm.
they think, oh, he has did the same, like better thing.
Okay,
we think that the woman is controlled by her emotion more than the,
okay, okay,
yeah, that's the.
okay.
That's why, when I was in Georgia, I was working with with Chinese people.
Mhm.
I don't know what's their culture, they are the same, they're not dealing like, if you are a man or if you are a woman, difference, no. But we are as a Jordanian people, we care for this thing. So when they order something from, by themselves, or when do they want something to do for me, or when do they want me to do something?
Mhm.
If I ignore or decline their orders, they are women.
Yeah.
They will cry.
Oh,
They will cry. Honestly, yeah.
okay,
I don't know why.
yeah,
So that's why they are sensitive. So that's why I told you we are more sensitive with the woman. But if they were a man or men told me something, I can fight with them if I
I got you, yeah.
ignore anything. you
Okay.
know.
I think man to man, you feel freedom.
Yeah.
Together.
They feel freedom.
okay,
But man to woman, there is some certain things you have to, yeah, some work you have to.
all right. Anybody else, ladies?
Tend to lead with more emotion
Okay.
than afterwards. I think that delivery to a female is different. If you are a
Mhm.
civilian, you do have to deliver differently. But I do also think that women in more senior roles do have to put on more of the power front
Okay.
to be, or to feel they're being accepted. So,
Okay,
yeah, I do think there's a difference in communication between deliveries and when you deliver to them.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. okay. Anybody else? I know you got something. See it in your eyes.
It's actually what I wanted to say, it's the same thing.
Same thing.
You know, the perception of, we women, well, I don't want to use the word being belittled,
Go
Like
ahead,
men.
use this.
you know, the superiority, you find yourself, if you are in a particular, position, the man will always want to, be struggling with you when it comes to negotiation of salary, when you come for an interview or something like in the tech space, for example. When in the tech space, they don't usually appreciate women in tech
Okay.
better than the men, because in terms of pay, usually they want to offer the man X amount of money, the woman will actually be offered Y amount of money. Why, when they are both doing the same things?
Right.
You know, why is it that there's more or less like a segregation,
Okay.
between the men? So basically, there should be a little bit of change when it comes to that perspective.
Okay.
And also for the people in the Arab world, women are usually a lot restricted. Like you have a lot of people, women are intellectual when it comes to certain areas, but they are being restricted because of one law or the other.
Mhm.
So basically, this is actually the gender difficulties a lot of we women face around the world, especially in the Arab area.
Okay.
Yeah. They are actually very excessive. I've gone travel to Saudi Arabia, and when you have, they can't speak, they can't
Yeah.
talk, they can't communicate, and when you see a woman with so much intelligence, has a lot of potential. She can read for as much as do a lot of online courses, but she can't implement those knowledge she has because
Right.
she's been restricted. Right, so the world should actually globalize, and there should be a little bit of change when it comes to that.
Okay.
I think that's the difference for you.
I'm sorry?
She believes
Who
that,
is he? Because I see what you did with Amin.
she feels that that's the way of our respect to you, and she back the respect for us in that way. So that's the way she thinks. So she didn't take it like, in that way. So she can help, look, this image, I think it's like before 10 to 20 years. Now everything changed. Yeah. Now the women in our country, they totally control more than 50% of work. Look, that image is different.
And they can do everything.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So it's a little different from each country in the Middle East that I've been to, but Jordan, Oman, Qatar are a little bit more open and listening. Israel, kind of a little more open to having equal voice, sort of, right? But the point is that, as you can tell, that there is a difference in communication when it comes to gender, okay? There's a stereotype, and I'm gonna call it just that because it's kind of what it is, that, women are emotional in their communication, and men are more pragmatic, and we're practical, and, we get straight to the point with problem solvers, right? Where women, will kind of like see how they feel, okay? And there's an anecdote or a story about, you ask a guy, okay, how'd you get to the store? Or I went to the store today, right? And the guy would say, yeah, I went to the store. I got some chicken. You ask the woman, you go to the store? Yeah, I went to the store. I got to the store, and then I took a left, and I took a right, and I stopped here because I saw my friend girl, I had stopped there. Then when I got in there, there was a sale on fish, so I didn't know what to do. really confused, so I wanted chicken, but I wanted fish too. And I thought, then I saw somebody else I knew, so I turned this way, right? So a little more detail, right? A little more detail. And so when it comes down to communication between men and women, there's these gender identities, right? The gender roles that not necessarily limitations, but
Like shortcuts.
no shortcuts, not shortcuts, no.
I almost agree with us, we women, we are quite detailed, like,
Right.
these, and men,
Yes.
the people are not good at talking, you feel the women
Right.
talk too much, like, oh, just give us some, I went to the market and I just bought something.
Right.
Just like what you're saying, but we women are like, oh, when I went there, I saw this meat, I had to compare the
Right.
price, that's like,
And a lot of that has to do with, just of course, the way we think, right, as men and how women think. There's two different thoughts, right? Some aspects of it can be considered positive, right? If I'm a CEO and I happen to be a woman and I have to communicate a certain strategy, having details probably gonna help me, right? Being detailed in nature and be able to explain that with some level of confidence and giving people an assurance and building better trust, right? This is why that's why men trust women. There's more trust within the women, the female gender, okay? Because they give more details. Us guys, we talk, but it's kind of on the surface. I really don't know really what's going on with you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You said something, yeah, but you didn't give me more details. Like, we're going to the store. And what are we gonna do at the store? We're going to the party. Who we going to the party with? How we getting there? Like, you ask the woman the same question, she's gonna tell you exactly, she's gonna give all the details, that you know exactly what's going on, for the most part, right? But that's not always the case, right? Because there are women in corporate America, as Christina pointed out, right? And I think Nikki pointed out, is that once you get to a certain point, especially in corporate America, a woman has to work that much harder to prove herself, right? And the communication is not always representative of who she is, okay? So most times when we have communication by a woman in a senior level or position of power, that woman usually comes off as aggressive. As for lack of a better term, she comes off as a, female dog. We'll just leave it at that, okay? That's what people say. She's mean, she's aggressive, she's just, why she's so like that? Why she talking like a man? That's what you hear. She's speaking like a man, right? And what does that mean? I don't know exactly, right? Because there are men who are a little bit more detailed, they're a little more sensitive in their speech, and they'll start talking talking like a woman, real mushy, or talking about his feelings, right? And so there's that whole thing about, men having female tendencies or female characteristics, right? And it translates into communication also, right? Where there's a certain perception between the two genders of how we communicate with each other. Neither one of them is right, neither one of them is wrong. It just depends on the person at the end of the day, right? And then in light of our society and our social constructs, right? Because that's what they are, right? So where do you think this kind of emanates from? Like, this whole men are, one way to communicate, and then women are another way to communicate, right? Where does this kind of emotional thing come from, and where does non-emotional thing for men come from? Hormones, for sure, right? Our physical, right, attributes, right? What else? Think biologically, think genetically, think, think old school. Think about the beginning of time and how we build things, how we do things as a society.
Man, more practical.
Yeah, maybe. Everybody knows the story of David and Goliath, right?
No,
No, you don't know what the story about David and Goliath?
no.
What?
Something from God.
Yeah.
Something from God, exactly, something from God. All right? No, you don't know about David and Goliath. Okay. Yeah, here go Christianity 101. Okay. David was a prophet of God, and the giant, I forgot his name, was basically the warrior for the Philistines or whatever they were, okay? And the Philistines were oppressing, God's chosen people, Israelites, okay? And David was their savior, all right? David was probably like me, he might have been shorter, all right? I think he was historically 5'8", 5'7", or something like that, okay? And Goliath was 6'5", breathed fire, did all this other stuff, right? And so him and David got to a fight, and Goliath went to go throw something at David. He missed David, and then David picked up the little rock with his slingshot, threw the rock, hit the giant in the head. The giant died, and David saved the world. Okay, you guys ever heard that story before?
Oh.
No? All right. All right, not in the Quran. Okay, got it.
No, we have it.
You have in the Quran, right? That's what I thought.
Yeah, we have.
I thought you had David and Goliath.
لما طلعوا جالوت لما صارت الحرب بيناتهم وكان قصير القامة وتطلع القرآن.
هو بالغلط؟
لا.
ما
كانت في نهاية هو اللي
Something like that, right?
Mm.
I don't know if they have it in Japanese culture, religion, maybe. I know some Japanese are Christians, some, I'm not really sure the spectrum of it all. India, nothing like that. Okay, so Brazilians, I think somewhat Christian Catholic, right, for the most part, okay? And African for sure Christian, somewhat Catholic, okay? But the point is that this kind of mindset has been around from the beginning of time, right? And it's not based on anything but physicality. Men were stronger, women were not as physically strong, okay? It's kind of like the strong beating up the weak, all right? That's basically what it boils down to at the end of the day, from an evolutionary standpoint, from a very old standpoint on how we kind of got to this, how we think about men and women, all right? The bigger you are, the more likely you can do what you want, okay? You can talk to anybody you want, all right? You're not gonna go up, if you're walking down the street and you see, I don't know, The Rock or something, right? The Rock 6'3", 240 pounds, and whatever the case may be, all right? You really gonna go fight with The Rock? Anybody gonna fight The Rock? Anybody wanna fight The Rock? No? Okay, I didn't think so. I don't wanna fight The Rock either, okay? All right, he may speak to you in a certain way that may not be great, right? But you're not probably not gonna do anything. Because you don't wanna deal with that, okay? You don't wanna deal with that. And so sometimes communication was based on more physicality. Our society is based on us being the stronger, physically stronger gender in most situations. Now, don't get me wrong, I've met some women that are strong, okay? We have a whole spectrum of women, that they're just strong, okay? So that doesn't really apply nowadays, okay? But it kind of is the root as to how we got to where we are right now, as far as like this whole gender thing, right? Men are more practical, women are emotional, and you kind of gonna do as I say, sort of, right? I'm gonna tell you what to do, and you're gonna do it. And yes, you probably have a recommendation or thought in your mind, but guess what? Men rule the world, so they say, okay? But at the end of the day, we know that women really rule the world, okay, or kind of run things, okay? You can see it in pretty much any aspect of your life, right? Who's more important, your mom or your dad? Your mom.
Yeah.
Well, to me, most men, I think their mom is more important, and not more important, but definitely has a different place in their heart and a better communicator than your dad. Okay, your dad will shake your hand, might give you a little pound on the back. All right, your mother sees you, she wants to kill you, like she wants to squeeze you so hard and just talk to you about everything under the sun. She wants to know how you're doing, is your girlfriend, boyfriend, or whatever the case may be, what job you're doing, tell me about what you ate this morning, Like she cares, right? Your dad cares too, but he just communicates in a different way, right? And so when it comes to change management, right, it's important to understand who's, really the face of the change, right? What kind of CEO do you have, right? And in some aspects, it's not that their gender is going to impact what they're saying, but it will impact how it's received. Okay, like you guys said, if it's a woman saying it, it might not be well received. It might not be, taken seriously. If it's a man saying it, oh, it's a man saying it. Yeah, it must be the truth. It has to be good. We have to follow this. This is all right. But if it's a woman saying, man, she's emotional, I'll give her a couple of days, and we'll come back and hear what she has to say again.
I think it depends the person personality
Yeah.
and the communication skill
Mhm.
regarding the situation and the different person who communicate with them.
Okay, that makes sense. So one of the most important things about communication is context. All right, what is the background, right? And what situation are we having this conversation in, right? In general, we don't condone, men hitting women. Okay, we don't, as a society, for the most part, at least on the surface, not condone, right? We don't do that. That's not how we roll, right? But in certain situations, it's okay. If she's trying to kill you, I think we understand why you would hit her. Okay? Like you threatened by a certain shit. If you're provoked in some way in which you have to, defend yourself, right? If we're having a legitimate argument, I'm not saying to hit her, but if we're having a legitimate argument, you could be a little more abrasive in your communication and how you speak to a woman, right? But at the end of the day, it really is about context, right? What situation are we in? And that will dictate how I speak to you, right? And what skills I need to pull out to speak to you, because not everybody, again, communicates well, right? I don't communicate well. I've been practicing and working on it for decades, right? When you realize that you don't communicate well, right, or you're willing to work on it, you go and you try to get better at it, okay? But that's because of going through relationships with people and them being at a certain point in their communication process and understanding that communication is about opening up and letting other people speak, right? And listening to what, not hearing, listening to what they're saying, all right? I hear you all the time. I hear a lot of things. Am I listening to it? Not necessarily, okay? So it's important that you listen and understand the context, understand the person, right? And not necessarily assign certain characteristics because of gender, because not really, okay? It doesn't really go that way. Take 10 minutes, come on back. What's going on?
And made you both in situation last week.
Was it, quiz?
And the food and try to,
Yeah, he started, yeah, I sent you an email, just, get the quiz done.
I do. Expectations. I do.
You have it?
And I will start doing it
Yeah.
today. I think I'll finish it then. I will do, I go
Turn it tomorrow. Okay?
Thank you.
Okay, no
Appreciate
problem.
it.
Yeah.
नहीं भाई हाँ तो शुरू भी नहीं हुआ हाँ नहीं उसमें कुछ वही मतलब टॉपिक और जो मैंने जैसे 4 क्वेश्चन डाले ना उसमें तो मैं किसके बारे में सर्च करूँगा और वही कि जैसे मैंने टॉपिक जो लिया उसकी मैं कि मैंने लाइक इम्पोर्टेंट उसकी मेरे को रिसर्च करनी है टॉपिक के बारे में उसकी इम्पोर्टेंट उसके मतलब क्या होता है और किन कंपनीज में चेंज करी थी स्ट्रेटेजी समझ नहीं रहा मैं क्या हो सकता लाइक उसके बारे में डिस्कस करो कि लाइक उसका बेसिकली होता क्या है मतलब काम क्या होता है उसका उससे हेल्पफुल क्या होती है उसको हेल्प करने की
I remember when, you know, I had all those leadership coaches, and
Mhm.
these quizzes and
Yeah.
like repeating certification or
और
what
प्रोसीजर क्या
something,
होते हैं
all the training, and I remember being Brown, I was, what, are you learning something that we definitely want to learn?
Alright.
And he was like, well, what I'm hearing from you.
Like, yeah. Yeah.
Like, it was really funny, but it does help. But
Yeah, yeah.
I remember being like, "This is what we're looking right there," like, everybody started giggling, but I was like, oh my God.
You do this stuff, you're actually paying attention, huh?
Absolutely, yeah, it was pretty funny.
Yeah, you paying attention, cause
Yeah.
this stuff works.
It does, and I think it's hard, I think it's hard to leave them. I
Mhm.
do, I think it's hard to leave ours.
As a woman?
You know, to leave.
Oh, really?
I do, I think that it's harder for child than it would be for women to be in leadership.
Yeah.
I think it's hard, I mean, there's the majority of the working female population does, maybe.
Yeah.
Often successful female leaders don't lead.
for example
Yeah.
My favorite female leader, no,
Yeah,
but for the proper.
right. And I think that's the proper emotion, right? Yeah,
I don't respond to that.
yeah,
Because I'm in them.
yeah, the men don't respond to that, especially, yeah, they don't.
And actually, I agree that the two that have my favorite, you know, is the proper emotion, but that proper emotion has also existed in the favorite mode.
Yeah.
That's the,
It's across the board. We have the proper emotion.
Mhm.
It's not,
and it works for both.
Yeah.
That we
gender doesn't matter.
always.
Yeah, it doesn't matter the gender. It's basically, you have the proper emotion because you need the emotion. When you're speaking to someone, because that, the emotion gives people the idea like it's a real topic to you, it's important to you, right? And you're invested sometime in thinking about it. When you have no emotion, and you just kind of like spitting stuff out, you're like, like, dude, you do have time to read this or like understand where I'm coming from, it doesn't really say empathetic or sympathetic at all.
And it is true, like, I think that men have to trust themselves more on emotion.
Yeah.
My response, you know, an idea, Kyle always said, write it in the next 30 minutes.
Yep.
Before you send it. And he's like, I do, it too. He's like, you will find that, and I'll read it, and I'm like, I don't care that much, I think it sounds like
Right.
emotion.
Mm,
I didn't care, like, so
Right.
I mean, so I naturally, like, more emotion.
Right,
Yeah, I think that women would probably have to maybe more, or maybe display themselves.
yeah, it's about the proper emotion and a lot of times when guys finally realize like, oh, I need to use the proper emotion, they have a hard time because they're so used to not getting emotion. So they don't know how to, they don't know how to control it, they don't know how to manage it, they don't know how to like put it in an email or they don't know how to vocalize. It's just like, it is a total, you're just lost and because it's so foreign to you as far as like societal norms. Like guys don't, we don't say much, we're just brooding and we're just, quiet and mysterious and everything just stays inside and you don't burden anybody else with your issues as a man, be it emotional, whatever the case may be, where women are, it's looked at it different, like, I expect you to tell me all your problems. Okay, and I'm gonna help you the best I can and, have all the emotion in it, and if you're acting mad at me, just your emotions. That time of the month, it's kind of like you said, when you said hormones, it's like, yeah, I mean, it is what it is, but that's not the case for everybody, you know what I'm saying? Like, I've seen people who are going through this, like, hey, I can tell.
I'm
I
very
know different.
pragmatic, I have a male colleague,
Yeah,
very, very more, Yeah, I'm not, I'm very, I can be very response. I'm not, and then I say, no, I'm fine.
Well,
Yeah, we go back, but I do apologize, we go back and do it, and then we joke around and he was in the practice.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Right.
I'm looking into this before I send it, I don't want to just send it to them.
Right, too
And
much,
I read
right.
this stuff on the student.
Yeah, it's, again, it goes to the proper emotion, right, and where.
It's hard to find leaders and stuff.
No, it's difficult because it's not something that comes naturally for men. And then when other men see it, they're afraid of it,
Mhm.
because it's like, oh, wait a minute, this guy's not necessarily acting in the mold of a male leader, like we normally, like, we know it to conceive it to be. And so that kind of pushes them off, and then the women sometimes will be like, kind of, a little feminine, like a little emotional. Yeah, you're emotional, huh? You know, but it's finding that right balance. Like man say, yeah, hey, you didn't say nothing last meeting, what's going on? You going back there? You have an opinion?
Not really, but whatever has happened with me until now was everything all still normal. Nothing ever has met until now was like all chill and good. So I didn't have to, that
Yeah.
didn't face that. But in particular, so I didn't have anything to say about that.
Yeah. I like just being in the classroom itself. Like, you guys are very, like kind of the same sort of. Regardless of gender. Or you guys, kind of, your demeanor the same, right? And so it kind of goes to my point, like, it's not about the gender, it's about the person and them understanding the context of where they're at and what they're talking about, and not necessarily that, oh no, I'm emotional or I'm pragmatic, it's just that the situation doesn't call for me to be
Exactly.
that way, it just calls for me to just listen and just be calm and it's okay, and then if I have something to say, I'll say it, right? But just the class in general, this class in general is like that. You know, very kind of, okay, y'all don't talk too much as far as like, I'll say something when it's important, when it's valuable. And then aside from that, you kind of just keep everything to yourself. So it's interesting to see, but hey, this is what it's about. I'm just looking at it.
The bottom slogan and
It's that.
What
What does it say?
To relate the Fortune 500 business. And put one of the to relate the.
No, I think, yeah, no. I need to go back in and, yeah,
I did not do that.
no, I don't need to, I tend not to always go to the syllabus, because
Okay.
I don't feel like it doesn't change, but teachers go in and change it.
Okay.
So no, just,
Just wanted to ask.
yeah, pick your company, pick your topic, whatever the case may be, and if there's a company that you're looking at, that you're doing a case analysis on, that's great, but you don't have to pick a Fortune 500
Do
company.
you have a company? Do you want a company?
There's nothing that should be, it could just be a topic in OD or change management that, is, like some people are just doing a kind of history lesson on OD and change management and kind of a lit review sort of, some folks are doing that, which is fine, some of the things that come along in change management, so, yeah, you have to pick a Fortune 500, because that's basically a case study,
Yeah.
And then there's a case analysis, and you're looking at the changes that they invoke. Now, if you do that, that's fine, but it's not the only way to approach it. All right, let's see, let's get started. Okay, so we talked about gender. The other thing that, we kind of want to talk about when it comes to gender, and it's not necessarily obvious, is the power dynamic in communication. And I talked about it earlier, as far as sometimes you're gonna have a one-sided conversation, right? You're gonna have a monologue with your boss, right? It's just that in American society, and I think in most societies, most positions of power are held by men. Okay, so there's a power dynamic here where, I have the leverage and you have to listen to what I'm saying, right? And so that sometimes makes it hard to communicate effectively. Because as much as you say, hey, you know what, just be frank, tell me what you're really thinking. Your boss may say that to you, but that doesn't mean necessarily gonna actually do that, because you're not comfortable. So you also have to take into consideration the power dynamic. Even when I'm speaking to you guys, at the end of the day, I have a certain amount of power, right, that I can wield, right? I have control of your grade and kind of that thing, right? And the work that you put in, I have to evaluate it, right? And so that's a power dynamic that I can leverage, or I can abuse, or whatever the case may be, but I have to take that into consideration when you're speaking to me, because I may say, hey, we may have a very frank, difficult conversation. I say, tell me how you're really feeling. And you may not do that because you're afraid that I'm gonna take it out on your grade, right? And so you may reserve some comments or some thoughts because you're not really sure if I'm going to take that a certain way and then pound you on your grade, or be nitpicky about, oh, you left the period out, or you spelled your name wrong, right? Something like that. And so when you have that kind of power dynamic, you have to be sure that if you really want someone's honest opinion on something, you have to make sure you make them comfortable, and that you have some level of authenticity to yourself, to who you are, right? There's one important thing about, there's a concept in leadership, and, this is one of the thoughts about leadership, authentic leadership, right? And I'm sure everybody's heard about authentic leadership. It's been around for a while, or maybe you heard about keeping it real. Okay, everybody heard that term before, keep it real? All right, okay. So when we talk about authentic leadership, when we talk about communication, we're talking about, you being who you are, okay? If you're an asshole, that's okay. At least I know you're an asshole. And I know when I go into your office, you might have asshole tendencies. You might speak to me the way assholes speak to people. But I know you're an asshole, okay? Lack of a better word. I apologize to anybody who's offended by the cursing, okay, or the vulgar word. But you understand my point, right? Like, as long as I know who you are, I know how to deal with you, okay? I know how to communicate with you. If I know that you're somebody who's open and sincere and authentic, and it's what I'm seeing is what, is what I'm getting is what I'm seeing, right? I'm seeing what I'm getting, right? That this is who you really are, then that kind of opens up some other doors for me to be more open with my communication with you. Because again, I know what's coming. If I know that you're vindictive in nature, and if I say something to you and it offends you, that you're going to take it out on me in different ways, I'm probably not going to say anything, right? A perfect example, right? In the former president, Donald Trump, right? Donald Trump is a very vindictive type person, right? He may say, tell me how you really feel. Say, I don't like you, Donald. I think your policies are stupid, or whatever the case may be. And he'd be like, cool, no problem. And then he'll be thinking of ways to get back at you. Okay? Then there's other people that like, hey, no, tell me how you really feel. And they take those things and they really input them into the decision-making process, right? Into what they're doing or how they're going to approach a certain decision, right? And so the power dynamic, is important to understand and to know who you're dealing with, right? Are you dealing with, an authentic person who has really revealed who they are? right? And you know who they are. They somebody that has this facade in the front, and as soon as you close the door, there's somebody totally different. All right, happens all the time. All right, you think you know somebody, but you really don't. All right, and so you have to be concerned about the whole power dynamic and how that plays into how much you're going to communicate and how much they're going to communicate. Some bosses feel like I don't need to tell you anything. Okay, I'm the boss. I know what's going on. I have the whole story. I'm going to tell you what I think you need to know, and that's it. I just need to follow directions, right? Other bosses are going to be more open and say, hey, this is what I got going on, and I'd like to hear your opinion about it, right? This is why things are set up the way they're set up. This is why you have a president, but then you also have a cabinet, right? You have advisors. Because the president is not well versed in many categories, right? The president doesn't know everything. You have advisors, specialists in certain areas that all sit down and we have a problem and you need to make a decision. But before you make that decision, we're going to give you all the information that we have as advisors or specialists in what we think you should do. Okay? And you see that most good organizations, most organizations that do well, they have that type of leader. A leader who listens and is more about communicating and listening than they are about being leaders. Okay? And you will find that what do you guys think as far as a good leader? What does a good leader look like? What do they do? How do they behave?
Maintain positive environment.
They maintain a positive environment, okay? What else?
Encourage you,
Encourage you. What else?
motivate you.
No racism.
Motivate you, what?
No racism.
No racism, okay? What else?
Guide you the right way.
Okay, well, I mean, there's a number of ways, but I see what, I know what you're saying. You're saying they do things in a proper format, yeah, whatever format that is. Right?
Friendly relationship to be more comfortable.
Okay, yeah, all right. What else?
I think that they're transparent.
Yeah.
And
Most, when you find people and you ask them about, their leaders and what they consider a good leader, a lot of times the term servant leadership comes up. Okay, have you guys ever heard that term before, servant leadership? Servant leadership,
they act like they work for you.
right. They act like they work for you. Okay? What's that? Yeah, everybody knows what the word servant means, right? Servant, like a, waiter or somebody who's attending to you, like a flight attendant like this is service, someone who's attending to you or attending to your needs is a servant, right? In most positive way that you can have it, all right? As a leader, most people see a good leader as a servant leader. I'm here for you, right? I'm here to support you, right? All the things you guys are saying, right? I'm gonna do things in the right way. I'm gonna do things in the best interest of you. Not of me, but what's gonna make your life better? What's gonna make your job better? Yeah. And you find that the leaders that are more servant leader and are authentic are the ones that do pretty well. Because at that point, now I have the employees trusting me, right? I have their loyalty because they know I'm going to do the things that are in their best interest. All right? It goes back to being in a relationship. And sometimes you hear the discussion about, the man and the woman and the woman being subservient to the husband, right? The wife being subservient, right? Or subordinate to the husband, right? It was an interesting conversation I heard last week. And the woman said, if he tells me to jump, I'm going to say how high. If he tells me to run this way, I'm going to run this way. If there's a wall there, oh well, I'm still going to run that way. Everybody was surprised. Like, why? Why would you do that? Are you not a free thinker? Do you not see that there's a wall there? Do you not see that there's things happening that you may not want to take that action? She's like, no, I see the wall. I see the problems, but I trust this person because they've proven to me that the decisions they make are about me or us. It's not about him. Okay, he's making decisions in the best interest of us, right? And that's how relationships, successful relationships go, right? If you have a significant other and they're making decisions and it's based on what they want or what you only want, that's not gonna work. That other person's gonna be unhappy. If you're making decisions that basically meet both our needs, maybe not 100%, maybe 75 on each side, or sometimes you'll take turns. Somebody will get what they want on this one and the next one, the other person will get what they want, right? It makes for a better relationship, right? And it works the same way in corporate America or in an organization, or company, okay? The leader, should have some resemblance or some characteristics of servant leadership. Because I'm really here for you. Like, I consider myself here for you. If you weren't here, I'd just be talking to myself. I probably wouldn't be here. All right, I'd be at home or doing something else, right? But I'm here to serve you, all right? We're here to talk. We're here to discuss things. I'm here to grade your work, evaluate, and then send you out the door, okay? What resources am I providing you to do that? Okay? Am I giving you everything that I have so you can be successful? Because I want you to walk out of here at the end of the 8 weeks, better informed, better understanding of change management, organizational development, right? And just better person in general, okay? Ready to approach any problem, right? Party over there, what's going on over there? Thank you, Larry. And so, as a leader, and depending on what kind of leader you are, the communication will, be reflected in that, okay? If you're a servant leader, usually you're pretty open to communication, you're open to a policy, anybody can come talk to you about anything, all right? And it's good to go, all right? If you are more authoritarian, or kind of more of a, I'll tell you, what you need to hear, when you need to hear it, then you're probably not going to do well. Because at that point, people feel stifled. People feel like if I say something that he or she doesn't like, there might be some repercussions that I don't want to deal with, right? I don't want to lose my job because I said something and it wasn't a good idea, whatever the case may be, and that person is not happy with my decision or what I said, right, with my input, right? So power dynamic definitely has some influence on communication style, right? All right, so 4 types of conversation, right? There's initiative, understanding, performance, and closure. And we kind of talked about, this a little bit, right? Depending on what I'm trying to do, right? If I'm just trying to persuade you, like I said in the, when I was telling you about my time at Toyota, the conversation changed from, informative to persuasive, right? Due to the fact that the information was released before I was ready, or they were ready to really discuss it, okay? And so there's different things I'm trying to do with my communication. I may be trying to seal the deal, right? If anybody's been in sales before, right? There's a way to do it, right?
Approach.
Yeah, there's an approach, right? There's a different approach as to how I'm gonna talk to you, right? If I'm trying to get you to do something, then I'm gonna be more persuasive. If I'm telling you to do something, I'm more directive, okay? If I'm trying to get you to understand something, I'm gonna come at you in a different way, all right? When I teach my statistics class, it's not the same when I teach this class. 2 different topics, 2 different mindsets, just people are just thinking differently, and some people are scared of math, all kind of stuff, right? And I take that into consideration. So how am I gonna approach this, right? Am I gonna go fast? Am I gonna go slow? Am I gonna focus on certain things? Do I need to build the foundation first, like basic? Sometimes I have to start with basic math, right? Order of operations. People forget that. If they haven't done it in a long time, they forget, like, hey, you got to, multiply and divide first, then add parentheses, that kind of thing, right? Sounds simple, but if you don't do it right, you get the wrong answer, okay? And so there's different approaches to how I communicate. Sometimes I'm trying to close a deal, right? I'm trying to get you to, buy in and actually execute. Okay, so we have the idea, I got your input, we're gonna incorporate your input, or maybe not, but now I need you to go take action. right? So what I need to tell you, what do you need to hear from me, okay, to close the deal, right? Most times it's not necessary, once a person buys in, people kind of just go and they execute. But sometimes I have to kind of figure it out, right? And in many instances, you'll know right off the bat what kind of conversation you need to have with somebody based on the situation. But different approaches are definitely relevant and matter, okay? All right, 4 dominant language forms, we got ideas, appeals, rules, and deals, right? So kind of the same thing, right? What am I trying to get at, right? Am I trying to tell you what I like? Am I trying to tell you to do something? Am I trying to, figure out like, if I need assistance, I'm going to talk to you differently than if I don't need assistance, right? Somebody trying to borrow money from you is different than somebody asking for money that you borrowed from them. Right? Totally different thing. When you go to the bank or you're applying for a program or something like that, the way you speak to the recruiter or HR or whoever it is different, right? Then you speak to, maybe after you get the job. Different conversation now, okay? You gave me an offer, great. Well, let's talk money now. I need $150,000. Okay, well, okay, let's talk. Yeah, okay, let's talk. All right, let's chop this up and see what we can get to. Okay, let's be in the middle. All right. So depending on what it is that you're trying to get at, right, the core of your communication, right, you'll have different, things you're trying to persuade people into, right? Think about religion in general. Okay. Religion is ideals, right? Ideology, right? Islam has one ideology, Christianity has another ideology, Buddhism has another ideology, right? These are all just frame of minds, thoughts, right? But underneath them, there's rules, there's procedures, there's policies, there's processes that support these ideologies, right? We require women to be covered, from head to toe, right? That's women taking action. That's an ideology. It's a thought, right? When you come here, we don't care about what you're wearing. You don't have to be covered up, okay? Whatever reason it is that way, it is that way, right? Some countries it's different, okay? But it doesn't matter. What's an ideal? Something I'm trying to get across, and based on the things we believe in and the morals and the things we like, we are kind of going to go that way, right? All right. Talking about service level language. Right? And surface level language, I had talked about like kind of the facade of stuff. So you're not gonna get like an in-depth, deep conversation with the CEO, bless you. Unless it's a really small company, it doesn't happen that way. Okay. I literally, when I worked at Toyota, my office was where I'm standing here, and the CEO's office was maybe let's just say Rupali's office. I never spoke to him. Ever. Not one time. I passed him in the hallway, he didn't say nothing to me. Not hi, not bye, nothing. Didn't talk to anybody really. Okay.
Driver personality.
Huh?
Driver personality.
Yeah, driver personality, right? He's the director of personality, right? Nice guy. Nice enough, but CEO, and probably has some CEO stuff on his mind, right? Which I understand, right? No big deal. But when he did speak, right, it's very surface level. It's very like, what's that? What they say? Idle talk, or what's that other term you say when you just chit chat with somebody? There's a term that we have to in the States. It's not chit chat. It's like you ask you about the weather. What do you say? Small talk. There you go. Thank you. Small talk. Right? You ever get into the elevator and you're sitting there and somebody starts talking to you? Oh, how's the weather? How's your day? Oh, this is a nice elevator. That plan is nice. What do you think about this hotel? Did you have the steak? Right? It's small talk. They don't care. Maybe they're just nervous, so they like to talk. Right? You meet people that like to talk on the plane. You ever sit down on a plane in your seat, you ready to go to sleep? Yeah, exactly. You got that. Yeah, won't stop talking. You want to be polite and nice, but it's like, hey, I really need to get some sleep. And you kind of close your eyes and like a bedtime story. Okay, they're still talking to you, right? Small talk, right? Are you getting anything from that?
No.
No, none. So it's not really communication. Okay, it's just surface level talk because the person may be a talker, the person may be nervous, they may be anxious, they may be curious, and then eventually gonna get to their true reason as to why they're talking to you, right? So, yeah,
But this is more talk, to make the communication better.
why you say that?
Maybe it's a way to make an ice break between the two.
Absolutely, yeah. But what's the important part of that? If it's small talk, and it's an icebreaker, what component do you need to make that a valuable experience?
Not valuable. Means like, it makes you like in other time,
Mhm.
not to get hard to speak with this person.
What do you mean, like it makes it
Like
harder?
if I have a border with you,
Mhm.
and when we met in an elevator and we have a small talk,
Mhm.
yeah, another time when I need to
Okay.
talk to you, I will not hesitate to talk to you.
Okay, so that's what I'm going to, right? It's valuable if you have the component of time. Okay?
Yeah.
That's only time it's valuable. It's only face is valuable. Now, what I mean by that is that I can talk to somebody here, right? Am I ever gonna see that person again? No, so this small talk that we just had doesn't mean anything to me, really, unless they told me something. Sometimes you get pieces of information, right? But in general, the conversation was not helpful. It didn't value to me. It didn't take anything away, except from sleep maybe, but it wasn't valuable, right? But if I know I'm gonna see this person again later on down the line
That will help.
or another
Yeah.
time, yes. So you have to have that time component in there for it to be valuable.
But you say the CEO is almost in his office.
The CEO, the CEO, yeah,
Yeah. So, yeah.
but it was invaluable to me. I mean, it was invaluable to me.
Okay. You're not need to talk to him anymore.
Right, yeah.
Anytime, yeah.
Exactly. So it was invaluable to me.
Need to say something for him directly.
Maybe you need a promotion.
More valuable.
Yeah, maybe I need promotion, yeah. Which he'd be like, okay, whatever, get out of here. This is why I don't talk to you. Okay, I think for promotion, all right? So there has to be some time component or the fact that you're going to go see that person again for small talk to be important. Small talk, if you like, let's just say, you work with somebody and you like them and you want to eventually maybe ask them out, right? Small talk, you kind of small talk, yeah, then you go away. 2 days later, you talk to them a little more again, right? Like you said, but now you're more relaxed because you've had small talk, and then you talk to them again, a couple of days, next week, you're like, yeah, you talk, and the conversation get a little deeper, and it's no longer small talk, right? If you had the advantage of time, right, to kind of grow that from small talk to something that's more valuable and more important to you in trying to build a relationship, right? Trying to build trust, right? So small talk is cool, but doesn't really tell me too much about the person, right? Doesn't really tell me too much about who you really are and kind of what you want to do, right? We talked about talking too much or, overload, right? Message overload and just sometimes it just people say a lot of things and okay, I don't know what to say, all right? That's why I always tell you, hey, stick to quality over quantity because you may say a bunch of stuff in it, but it's pointless. It's a bunch of fluff. All right, I don't care about that. All right, communicate in a way that's poignant, makes sense. I get a clear picture of what you're trying to say, and I get your point, and I'm like, okay, that's a good argument. All right, I don't care about the other stuff. All right, and then buying we kind of talked about already. Okay. All right, some different communication strategies. All right, I'm just gonna go over these real quick because there's a couple of videos I want to watch. All right, so the first one is spray and pray. Anybody want to take a guess as to what this communication strategy is? Spray and pray.
an idiom?
No, it's just a approach, a way in which to communicate, the style.
What does that mean?
Throw information out, hope it's received.
Yes, okay?
Yeah.
Spray and pray. So it's not, so I see what you're saying. No, it's not literal. It's not literal. It is a kind of an idiom, I guess, where it's just more like, hey, spray and pray, but as you know, everybody in the past kind of answered up, right? So basically, I'm gonna tell you what I gotta tell you. I'm gonna hope to God that you do what I ask you to do. Right, and I hope you understand everything and thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, and then I walk away. No questions, no additional information, no nothing. I just talk and I just go to my office and oh God, everything works out. Okay,
Small and close-end conversation.
yeah, that'll be the conversation, just me talking and then going away.
One way conversation.
Yeah, basically, yeah, and just hoping that you understand everything goes well, right? Tell and sell. What do you think tell and sell is like?
To get attention for something you want to attract someone.
Okay,
Basically, it goes for like small times, like seconds or something.
no, not necessarily.
Small
Seconds.
interactions or something.
Anybody else?
I think it's like something like lack of trust.
What do you mean by lack of trust?
When the employee is like, not that good,
Mm-hmm,
when you need like to make it just professional,
yeah.
yeah, so tell us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's related to the sales in general.
No, it's not gonna, it can be a particular thing, but what do you saying that?
So basically, they communicate and try to sell their point. with
Okay.
some logical explanation
Yes.
or with their own, techniques. in their
Okay.
conversation.
It basically, it kind of goes to sales and it actually hit on the head, right? It's telling stuff, I'm trying to persuade you to do something, all right? I'm trying to sell something to you. This is a great idea. We're gonna open up a store and we're gonna sell, I don't know, the doodads or what, the widgets or whatever, okay? So I'm telling you, and then hopefully I've sold you on it to the point where you believe in it, okay? So that's telling and sell, basically, persuasive argument, right? Underscore and explore. Underscore and explore, what do you think that is? What kind of approach is that? Underscore. What are you gonna say? You trying to explain underscore?
No, yeah.
Go ahead.
When I like underscore something,
Mhm.
I just mentioned that it's important, I will find what it like will be.
Who's gonna find the next thing?
The management.
Who's gonna do the exploring?
The target people like clients or something.
Okay, okay, perfect, right? I'm gonna underscore, right? I'm gonna give you some details,
Small.
all right, small details,
But
right?
attention, get attention, you.
Right, and I'm gonna give you enough to where you're interested, that you're so interested that you're gonna go find the details for yourself. Hey, we're going to move to Plano, Texas, and it's gonna happen in a month. More details to follow. Check out the website. Now you're like, well, what are you talking about? We're moving. Go straight to the internet, pull it up, website. I'm exploring, right? I'm doing my own research. So now me as the leader, as the manager, whatever the case may be, I don't have to explain it to you. You're gonna do your own research. And you're gonna come to your own conclusions. Okay? Because I have not given you a conclusion. I haven't painted a picture of what the outcome is gonna be. I'm leaving it to you and your own perception of what you think in your mind constitutes moving, all right? Constitutes this change. And it's easier for you to look and explore and in your own mind frame the change in a way that's acceptable to you, even if it's not necessarily the way the change is gonna happen. Okay? Because it makes it for me as the leadership to be able to say, are you good with the change? Or do you understand the change? You go, yeah, because you understand it in your own mind, because you did the research, you looked at it, and in your own mind, it looks a certain way. But we never really talked about it. right? What are the characteristics of your change? What does your change look like? Does it match the actual change that's gonna happen? All right, this is where the conflict comes in, where, hey, I thought it was gonna happen this way. Not happening this way. And this whole time you've been thinking it's gonna happen this way, but that's because I let you go check out for yourself, all right? Okay, figure it out. Identify and reply. Go ahead.
I think this happens always with the problem of issues of employees,
Of what?
of employees. That the management
Okay,
will first like listen to the issue,
uh-huh,
and they will look at everything, and then they will reply to take concern of the issue of employee, and they
Okay.
will reply on.
it's close, right? So basically identify, reply, basically I'm picking and choosing what I want to talk about. Okay, I'm gonna identify some certain things that I know you're gonna be concerned about. And I'm only gonna reply to those things. I'm only going to give you information about those things, right? It's basically leaving you in the dark. You don't know what you don't know. Okay, but I'm going to pick out some things like, oh, what about pay? What about, relocation? What happens when the people that stay here promotion, right? Those are all things you're asking me. I'm gonna identify and I'm gonna reply to all those questions. But then I didn't say anything about all the questions you didn't ask that I know about. Right? That way you feel that everything that you want to know,
You have to ask.
you have to ask for, but your needs have been met. Because in your mind, you're like, well, I had all these questions, they all got answered. It's all good. Right? But you didn't ask me a question about, when we're gonna leave, how many people are leaving at what time, how we're gonna pay you. Is it gonna be lump sum or is it gonna be overtime? You didn't ask those questions, right? Because you're not thinking about that. But I know, right? I know those questions are coming from different people. And so I just kind of identify, reply. Question? No, it's Christian Leonard. That looks good, by the way. I like that color. All right, withhold and uphold. Go ahead.
I think I can give it like the meaning of the information.
Mm-hmm,
I always withhold the data,
mm-hmm.
I always upload the important thing of information that I.
Uphold, not
Uphold.
upload, uphold. Yeah, different. So you're saying that you withhold the
All
stuff
the time, all the data.
all the time?
All the data.
All the data, okay.
But I uphold the information that I.
No, withhold, yeah, makes sense. Now you withhold all the information or the data that you need. Uphold, right? If I uphold something, what am I doing?
Hiding something, providing something else to the person.
I'm hiding some,
Uh,
something to,
There's no hiding in uphold.
Withhold hiding something.
Withhold, but
and
not uphold. Uphold.
But I provide you something I want you to know, not you want to, like.
Um,
can describe it with the-
yes, it's more that, right?
You are
I-
very certain that this is what it is and you're giving the person your word. It's
Right.
detailed.
I uphold my responsibility, I
Yeah, like
uphold
an
my
affirmation.
obligation, right? I'm gonna give you this bonus, right? I'm gonna uphold that. You're gonna get this, guaranteed, all right? So in 6 months, you get your bonus, like I said you would. I upheld my part of the bargain or the deal, right? When I withhold and uphold, what happens is I withhold certain pieces of information or certain things, but the things that I do tell you, I make sure I deliver on. Okay? But the withhold part is the important part because I'm not telling you everything. Is it a lie if I don't tell you something?
It's sort of,
Am I lying to you?
it's sort of.
Sort of, right?
Yeah.
Just because I don't tell you, right, doesn't mean I'm not lying. I just don't tell you.
It's another
Okay.
way.
Right, but I tell you certain things, and that's exactly what I'm doing. Hey, I'm in Vegas for a convention. Oh, I told you something, and I am in Vegas for a convention. Oh, I didn't tell you though, all the guys are here, and we're having a party every night and we're going to the club, and I'm only really working 1 hour a day. Okay, that's, you're withholding information, right? Right? I didn't lie to you, just not telling you everything, right? But the thing I do tell you, they're true, okay? So there's different approaches in how communication happens and how CEOs use the communication approaches, depending on how much information they have, timeline, resources, you know, what the long-term objectives are, and also the short-term deliverables are due, right? Like there's certain production goals that have to be met, you know, in spite of change or whatever's going on. And so the leader will decide which approach makes the most sense. But in the end, you know, just being transparent, honest, and upfront will always be the best approach. Right? Honesty, the best policy, is they say sometimes. Works 9 out of 10 times to me. Okay? Honesty always works. Be upfront. Don't tell people stories and don't tell people stuff you can't deliver on. You can't do it, just say I can't do it. All right? You see this all the time when people do dissertation defenses and you ask them a question and it's not within the scope of their study. Instead of saying that, it's not within my scope of study, because that's the answer you're supposed to give, not within the scope of my study. If I ask you something about your research, but that had nothing to do with your research, it's not within the scope of my study. Instead, they try to give you an answer. I asked you the question because I know that's not within the scope of your study, but I want to see what you're going to do. All right? You're doing a study on, I don't know, whatever, change management. And I asked you, so how did the change management policies in Apple affect your research? And you're like, I didn't do it on Apple. But you try to answer the question anyway. Okay? So it doesn't work out. Just be honest, be upfront. I don't know. Because that's not within the scope of my study, or I'm not familiar with that particular thing, right? Communication is rooted in honesty and trust, and people will not believe you if you start fabricating stuff, because many times when people ask you a question, they usually know the answer to it, right? Or have an idea of what they're looking for, right? Or they know what kind of where the answer should be at. And if it's not in that realm or in that area, then they're not gonna trust you. They don't think you're lying. Okay, so be honest and upfront about your conversation. All right, so I want to watch 2 videos before we go. What time is it?
7:47.
Jesus, man, you guys gotta stop me. Stop talking too much. It's okay, like Dr. Cage, we gotta go. Talking too much. All right. So we're just gonna watch this one, okay? And the reason I picked this one is because it has overall. Hold on, let me finish. It overall has tips on how to improve your communication overall, right? And things that you should do, and it's important because it applies both personally and professionally. No matter what, like I said, communication is communication, no matter what you're doing, okay? Okay, ready? Are you talking about something important? We're trying to get understanding about something?
We just discussed about the withholding or upholding.
Oh, what about it?
Yeah. You know, when we use this situation, what is the situation?
I guess it depends on the nature of, so let's say for example.
I did an example for a bank.
It gives me good.
Yeah. So the
Yeah.
bank, are you talking about the bank situation that's going on right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Withhold and uphold, right?
Yeah.
Like this whole, so real quick, Silicon Valley Bank, all the banks are kind of going through this thing. Silicon Valley Bank failed or collapsed. Government's gonna step in, whatever the case may be. But there's certain pieces of information that they gave out to people so they could know what was going on with the bank, but they also withheld a lot of information, right? But the information that they give out was true, but they also didn't tell everybody, oh, the CEO sold $3 million worth of shares before, right?
You haven't read this, and you will not read it.
Right, exactly, right? Everybody got their bonuses before
Yeah.
we went bankrupt, all right? So these kind of things don't go well with trust, right? And they were worried about that because now it's gonna, people are gonna go to the bank and say, I want my money, because I don't trust you, bank. Okay, so we're holding up hope. That's just one situation, right? One, what you call it, scenario. Where is my, why did I do it? Yeah. Did this last time. I did not. I'm gonna go back to the desktop. Yeah. Put that out. And then we will close out. Google, PowerPoint. Show. Okay, right here. All right. Let's do this. I'm gonna start. Okay, so we'll end on this note, but that last point where it said that you may have to say, the change and talk about different things over and over again. That's an important aspect of change, right? The first time, it doesn't always take. All right, especially when we're talking to a large group of folks and asking them to do a major change. It's gonna take 2 or 3 times or 4 times of speaking to them and trying to, get them to understand that the change is important and giving them space to really integrate the change into their day-to-day life, okay? So be patient in that manner, right? Understand that change is not easy for everybody and everybody goes through it differently. But if you communicate that on numerous and several occasions in different ways, then you're probably gonna be successful in integrating that change, okay? All right, that's all I got. I'll see you guys next week. All right.
Thank you.
All right. All right, Tunji, I'll see you next week, okay?
I'm good.